Okay, so we'll begin. Welcome, devotees, to the morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we'll be reading from the second canto, 6th chapter, verse number 32. I'll begin with my prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakhya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshe Tarine. So I'll share my screen and we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, 6th chapter, verse number 32. I'll read the verse, synonyms, translation, purport, and then we will briefly discuss. Srijami tanniyukto aham haro harati tadvashaha vishwam purusha rupena paripati trishakti drik. Srijami tanniyukto aham haro harati tadvashaha vishwam purusha rupena paripati trishakti drik. Synonyms or word to word meaning. Srijami, do create, tat, by his, niyuktaha, appointment, aham, I, hara, Lord Shiva, harati, destroys, tat, vashaha, under his subordination, Vishwam, the whole universe, Purusha, the personality of Godhead, Rupena, by his eternal form, Paripati, maintains, Tri Shakti Drik, the controller of three energies. Translation. By His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. By His will I create, Lord Shiva destroys, and He Himself, in His eternal form as the personality of Godhead, maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these three energies. Purport. The conception of one without a second is clearly confirmed here. The one is Lord Vasudev, and only by his different energies and expansions are different manifestations, both in the material and in the spiritual worlds, maintained. In the material world also, Lord Vasudev is everything, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. Everything is Vasudev only. In the Vedic hymns also, the same Vasudev is held to be supreme. It is said in the Vedas, Vasudevat paro brahman na chanyo artho asti tattvataha. In fact, there is no greater truth than Vasudev. And Lord Krishna affirms the same truth in Bhagavad Gita 7.7. Mattah parataram nanyat. There is nothing above me, Lord Krishna. So the conception of oneness, as overly stressed by the impersonalists, is also accepted by the personalist devotee of the Lord. The difference is that the impersonalist denies personality in the ultimate issue, whereas the devotee gives more importance to the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam explains this truth in the verse under discussion. Lord Vasudeva is one without a second. But because he is all powerful, he can expand himself as well as display his omnipotencies. The Lord is described here as omnipotent by three energies, three Shakti Dhrik. So primarily, his three energies are internal, marginal, and external. This external energy is also displayed in the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Similarly, the internal potency is also displayed in three spiritual modes, Samvit, Sandhini, and Hladini. The marginal potency or the living entities is also spiritual, Prakritim Vidhi Me Param. But the living entities are never equal to the Lord. The Lord is Nirasta Samya Atishaya. In other words, no one is greater than or equal to the Supreme Lord. So the living entities, including even such great personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, are all subordinate to the Lord. In the material world also, in his eternal form of Vishnu, he maintains and controls all the affairs of the demigods, including Brahma and Shiva. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Swapadantikam. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Okay, so we'll now discuss this verse, the purport. As a context, this is being spoken by Lord Brahma to Narada Muni, his son, Narada Muni. And in this verse, Lord Brahma is telling him that by his will, and here he is particularly referring to Vasudeva or Krishna, I create, Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself in his eternal form as the personality of Godhead maintains everything. He is powerful controller of these three energies. So very clearly, Lord Brahma is telling Narada Muni that even though he is the creator and everything seems to be coming from him, or rather, Lord Brahma may look like the supreme creator, but he actually is not, and only by the will of the Supreme Lord that he can create. And only by his will, Lord Shiva, who is in charge of destruction, can destroy. And he himself comes in the form, in his eternal form, to maintain everything. And then Srila Prabhupada in the purport gives references from Bhagavad Gita 7.19 says, Bahunam is the famous verse, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So Prabhupada is quoting Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, meaning that the translation says, after many births and deaths, he who is actually knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So Bahunam Janmanam, it may take many births, and a Gyanavan will come to the conclusion, Gyanavan will surrender, Mam Prapadyate, mean surrender to Krishna. And the conclusion will be Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Vasudev is everything. And such a Mahatma is Sudurlabha, meaning very rare to be seen. And then Srila Prabhupada is also quoting from Bhagavad Gita 7.7. Matta parataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre mani gana iva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread. So here also Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, like meaning that he's the thread of a pearl's necklace. The thread keeps everything together. So similarly, he is the main pivot. He's the main thread which is keeping everything together, and that there is no truth superior to me. Matta parataram nanyat. And similarly, there are other references also in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that he is the source of both the spiritual and the material energies, which is what is being said here also. Now coming to the section where in the purport, I'm trying to search where is that. Okay, so the Lord is described here as omnipotent by three energies, three Shakti, Drik. So, and Prabhupada explains that the complete energies of Krishna can be divided into three categories. Prabhupada in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, he divides the energies into two. Here he's dividing into three, and then in Srimad Bhagavatam also there are, in some places it is divided into 9 energies and sometimes divided into 16 energies. So the energies of the Lord are unlimited, but they can be divided or categorized into different ways, and it doesn't mean that one or the other is not correct. So for example, in the math, it can be divided into primary math, algebra, trigonometry, and calculus, but some other persons may add more categorizations to it. So likewise, the energies are unlimited, and these are the different categories. And here the three energies are the internal, marginal, and external. Internal energy is the spiritual energy. Marginal energy is the in-between, who have the potency to be either part of the internal or external. And external energy is the material energy. And then he says that the external energy is again displayed in three ways, or the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And similarly, the internal is also displayed in three ways, Samvit, Sandhini, and Hladini. And the living entities is the marginal potency. It is in the middle, but they are never, they are in the middle, but they are spiritual. The marginal potency is spirit, unlike the external energy, which is matter or material. But even though Prabhupada clarifies that even though marginal potency is spiritual, they are never equal to the Lord. And that's the conclusion, that even Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the demigods, they are not equal. So in this universe, we see different affairs, different universal affairs, like somebody is in charge of water, somebody is in charge of the rain, somebody is in charge of the movements of the planets, and there are so many different things. Likewise, Lord Brahma is in charge of creation, Lord Shiva in charge of destruction, Indra is in charge of the rains, Varuna in charge of the water, there is someone in charge of fire. Now, in a previous purport, Srila Prabhupada had mentioned in this same chapter that currently in the Kali Yuga, because we cannot see the demigods or these different things being managed, we tend to think that everything is, I'm sorry, there is no controller. These things are happening automatically. But it's not very difficult to understand. Even within our state, within the government, there are different controllers. Somebody is a controller of water, somebody is controller of the roads and transportation, somebody is in control of the army, military, etc. But they are not independent controllers, meaning if the controller of water thinks that let me today release so much water that it will flood the cities, can he do that? No, he cannot, because if he does that, he will immediately be arrested. There will be a power above him that will come and check his activities if he goes outside of the boundaries. So similarly, the demigods, if they are controllers, but they are not independent controllers, they are also bound by the supreme law. In fact, it's mentioned, I am not able to quote in Bhagavatam, that the ocean does not cross its limit due to the fear of the Lord. The sun does not overheat or overcool due to the fear of the Lord. It orbits in the correct way due to fear of the Lord. So these are some of the statements in Srimad Bhagavatam. And we can see also from the pastimes of Krishna, Lord Indra had attempted to flood the Vrindavan. That famous pastime is there. We pretty much know the pastime, but I'll briefly state it in this context that we are discussing. So Lord Indra had thought that, okay, this boy is trying to stop the yagna, because yagna is something that is required. Krishna says that in the 3rd chapter Bhagavad Gita also. But Krishna stopped the yagna, stopped the worship of Lord Indra by his father Nanda Maharaj, and instead asked to worship Govardhan. And Indra became angry and he misused his power. He's the controller of the rain, and he brought in so much rain that it flooded the Vrindavan Dham, or the the town. And Krishna showed that to bring, we understand from the acharyas that Krishna acted. He lifted the Govardhan and protected the residents of Vrindavan just to curb the pride of Indra, and to show that he is not an independent controller. He is the controller, but there are rules and boundaries within which the thing that he has to manage has to operate. And he showed that in such a nice way, such that he lifted the Govardhan hill, and Indra still did not stop. I mean, in general, we would think that, okay, a small boy has lifted the whole mountain in his pinky, so he may not be an ordinary human being, but Indra continued for 7 days and night to rain and flood, and Krishna maintained everyone. Ultimately, Indra came and begged for forgiveness from Krishna. But in this context, we can clearly see that the demigods are in charge of different resources in the material universe, but they are not independent controllers, and they have checks and boundaries also, which is what this verse also says. And I think that's it. I'll stop here and I'll quickly summarize. So this is a verse in continuation. Lord Brahma is speaking to Narada Muni, and in this verse he tells very clearly that only by the Lord's will Lord Brahma is able to create, Lord Shiva is able to destroy, and the Lord himself helps in maintaining everything. And he is the powerful controller of the three energies. And those three energies meaning creation, destruction, and maintenance. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives references from Bhagavad Gita 7.19, Bahunam Janmanamante Gyanavan Mam Prapadyate, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatmanta Sudurlabha. So Prabhupada is stating that the same thing is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, meaning Vasudev is everything and the only one. He also gives reference to 7.7, Matta Parataram Nanyat, meaning there is nothing above me. He's the single thread which holds on, which brings everyone together, which holds everything together, both spiritual and material. And then Prabhupada goes on to describe the three different energies, the internal energy, marginal, and the external energy. Both the internal and external energies are again divided into three different energies. And the marginal energy has the potency to be either on the side of the internal energy or the external energy using their free will. And marginal energy is the living entity, which are all of us, and but they are spiritual in nature. And even though they are spiritual in nature, they are not equal to the Lord. And then we discussed about the demigods, how they are in charge of everything within the material universe, but they are not independently in charge. There is the supreme controller, which is Krishna, Vasudeva, who is controlling everything. And they are simply controlling on behalf of the supreme controller, Vasudeva. And there are checks and boundaries within which they have to operate. They cannot independently control. Ultimately, Vasudeva or Krishna is the ultimate controller. So I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or discussions. Otherwise, there's just 2 minutes left.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Please accept mine too. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
So I just want to, just appreciation. It was a nice summary. How Krishna is really holding everything, as he quoted. from the Bhagavad Gita, how he is Sutre Manigana Eva, or how he is controlling this internal, external, even the categories in the internal and so on. So, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the bringing it up or reiterating. Okay, thank you, devotees. It's just 1 minute left and I have a hard stop. Have a good, wonderful rest of the day. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.